Hey, welcome back, chat. Welcome back. This is the next episode over here on Demon Slayer this time, in order to also continue the next episodes of stuff that I have over here on Demon Slayer. So today I'm going over Masq's general post here that talked about some of the balance patches and changes that happened either the end of the week or the week after Evo. That same week, a patch had happened. A random patch had dropped out of nowhere, like right after Evo went off for a lot of games. I almost think that the production team actually timed that to be later on, but because Demon Slayer was in like the best media projection at that point, with such a huge offline, its very first offline major, basically, that it just made sense for them to try and do the patch somewhere around this time or to project it. And so I'm going to try and take a look at that in a second. What I'm also looking at right now is Masq. So Masq is one of the top players in the scene of Demon Slayer, the Himanoki Chronicles 1 and 2. Here he made a list of tweets throughout last month regarding everything that had changed or been edited throughout the patch that, for the most part, contributed to the game's distinct betterment, this is very good. This is really, really good. This means that Demon Slayer 2 actually had a quality of life mass patch. So I give them my props for something really, really good here. So bear with me and take you down the rabbit hole in order to see what this looks like. So the heavy mechanic will genuinely be the reason I retire from the game. Just brings back heavies from the first game at this point. The uncharged heavies are so inconsistent in how they work. Sometimes you stuff them and sometimes you don't. It doesn't make sense. I'm also pulling these down. We're going to take a look at these. So characters like Icy Shinobu, Doma, Inosuke, Gyome, etc. can just spam these without having to rely on the rest of their kit because of how fast they are and the armor duration on them, which should be the same for every character. Okay, so the armor value is different. 2. Not to mention, if you just button tap them, you spend no meter, and all of them have the most ridiculous cancel windows that all allow you to dash at your opponent guard for 20 or 30 more guard damage on top of the damage you do with your heavy, or you can just jump away and be safe. So you can commit and probably steal your turn, or you can disengage and be safe at forcing consistent neutral and spacing. 3. The fact there's different armor durations on these heavies, which I didn't even know was a thing until reading these recent patch notes, is ridiculous. That means some can tank more than others, and the game doesn't let you see these armor windows. 4. There needs to be a baseline for how you can counter them, but that's not a thing because they all work differently, and some are just ridiculously overtuned. It just feels like this mechanic removes the skill expression from this game. 5. You can stuff them out with dashes, but if you miss the timing, you'll either clash with the dash from the heavy, or the heavy will just hit you, so it's not even worth it. This is Shinobu's heavy after the nerf, by the way. Literally unreactable, and it costs 0 meter with a button tap unless you have to cancel. Okay, that does look pretty tight actually. Like there's almost no window for it. Is there a follow up here? Yeah. Bonus clips of how this game has just evolved into heavy slop and why this mechanic needs to be addressed. A lot of these are just too fast and have ridiculous armor windows for being uncharged. Another reason why this mechanic makes no sense. The armored dash hit me before the actual heavy attack even came out. Wait, what? Hang on. Yeah, the move hit before the active frame hit. So, hang on. This is a Clayton Chapman situation. There's a hitbox. There's an illusionary hitbox or something that's touching the hit stop right in front of the hit marker to the character, and why this didn't work. There's something else there that with the hurt boxes there that's still getting tagged, where the frames don't make sense and how the moves startup frames are generating generating a hitbox alongside the active frames. If there's any of my FGC heads out there, I need someone to give me an idea on how this is, on how, like, the active frame of the move doesn't necessarily have a hitbox. It doesn't have a hitbox to it, but he's getting hit as if there's a hitbox to the startup animation, not the active frames. The startup animation has a hidden active frame somewhere that's getting hit somewhere that just has you just getting hit before the active frame comes out. That's really, really weird. Number 9, the biggest issue is that if you were to parry a heavy, which is the most consistent way to counter one, you don't get rewarded at all, since for whatever reason parries have 40% damage scaling, even though they're extremely difficult to land. Okay. Number 10. If at any point in this sequence my opponent landed a parry, which would be extremely difficult by the way, he would get no damage because they have 40% scaling, and for whatever reason, Inosuke is 0.90 defense. Overall, the recent patch was very good in terms of nerfing a lot of the broken things in the game, but this mechanic needs to be addressed in some way, or just bring back the heavies from the first game at this point. And then I see he tagged the Kimonosuke game for Demon Slayer. He tagged Demon Slayer itself, the American version, for the official Twitter account for the game. CyberConnects. That's another one. I got to give credit to CyberConnects. They've been going through a pretty good amount here. They've been just like championing this shit. And then he also tagged Sega. So I'm still in the process of getting back into the pros and cons of this game myself. So a lot of what he's talking about is a decent projection of the balance patching doing what it needs to do in terms of like taking one bad element out of the ecosystem that's good, but then now you kind of sort of have another element in the ecosystem that's kind of bad. So it just can't win. It just can't win. I don't know what to say. It's like the game just can't catch a break sometimes with like the perfect 100% glaze praiseworthy patch. It just can't get one. But this patch is still a good W. It's still a W, so I can't really say much other than just to try the patch out for yourself, see what characters you like or don't like. Everybody here seems to be viable, or there's more characters that are more viable this time around compared to the past patch. So try it out and just see where you land. The patch, I gotta find the patch notes, but the links for everything that Masq is talking about here will definitely be listed down below for you guys. So, okay, so also taking the time here to catch up in Demo server. Demo has been pretty busy while I've been away, and that I kind of expected that. She usually tries to keep herself a productive busybody. And her TikTok's also been booming too. If you hadn't had a chance to check out her TikTok, check it out. It does some pretty good work out here. Oh yeah. Okay. I remember this. This was late June was when Demo first had like a whole complete server overhaul for the Demolition server. I was in the middle of like detaching from the scenes for like a good minute, but when I first caught this, I noticed that little by little, each of the sections were getting cut off or walled off here, and I was wondering what was going on. And then she just told me she's actually doing a server revamp on what's going on here. So in total, looking at everything over here, honestly, I like it. I do like it. I like it a little better than I did originally from a couple of months ago. It's not that bad. It's also cleaner too. I will say that it's cleaner in the presentation aspect. So I think that's good for Paradise Faith and what she wanted. As you're all aware, I've been taking a massive break. I started my own business recently and I've been semi-stressed about it. So thank you guys for your support and your patience. Tournaments and events will be back up again in August, hopefully. Anyway, enjoy the server. Always, 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 always. Marvel Tokon, Kirby Fighters 2, Avatar Legends, and possibly Invisible Versus are games I will aim to commentate. Okay, Legend himself, I love you. Infinite Burst is starting with. Oh yeah. Infinite Burst was actually a really good one. Infinite Burst passed about a couple of weeks ago for you guys out there. That was on Quion's Twitch. So if you guys hadn't been following Quyon, go on ahead and give him a follow. He's live now. But that was a super good tournament for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, for Naruto Storm Connections, and for Demon Slayer 2. Demon Slayer 2. So it was good all around. I gotta see if it's actually here. From 5 days ago, 7 days ago, 8 days ago, 9 days ago. All videos. No. Nah, okay, so it's gone now. Everything here is just stuff from last year. So it's not here anymore. So it may be on the YouTube channel, or you gotta go out and try and see if you can find it specifically. But Infinite Burst was a really great experience. I had a chance to commentate. I commentated for 2 games this time around. I was a fill-in. Me and the Biscuit were a fill-in for a couple of people for the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and for the first part of top 4 in the Naruto Storm Connections. All this on PlayStation. So the formula was really good. The commentary was really good. It was creative, super hype, super funny. Chat was insane. It was a good experience. I didn't get a chance to take a look at too much of how the Infinite Burst for Demon Slayer went, but I look forward to catching up on that now while I'm here. Demon Slayer starting soon. I have a post for the tourney. Congrats to Jensen Jules for taking it home. Oh, so he won the Infinite Burst for DS2. Bookmark. Try and see if I can have a sit down with this guy. So I got a bookmark Artemis for the Evo Championship, and then I got a bookmark this guy. I was on edge of my seat the entire time, and GG's to everyone who played. I genuinely had fun. Special thanks to Cash Almighty, Ruli, and Sorryman for putting this whole event together and letting me commentate. I had a blast. Sweet. Anime. These are D1. Oh, the D. Oh, that anniversary. Okay, so the 5th anniversary of D. Wait, when did Demon Slayer Himanoki Chronicles 1 first come out? 2021. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it is 5 years. And it's coming out August 5th. Oh, that's soon. Okay. That is super soon. You guys have until the day before to sign up for this, so we can probably seed the bracket. And each tournament needs 20 to sign up in order to guarantee the $100 pot. I was just looking at it. Hang on. Signups are here. NA and EU players only. Oh shit! I didn't even click on the button. Hang on. Let's click on it now. A 4-part event happening September 3rd to the 6th. This will be throwback DS1 tournaments. Only for NA and EU, the anniversary series will start up with a creator-only tournament. The tournament will be starting September 3rd and will be streamed on the TCO Twitch channel. Oh, okay. I do have the link for that. For the anniversary events, if each tournament gets 20 signups, the respected pot will get 100. If a tournament doesn't reason 20 signups, then they will get a $50 starting pot, and the rest of the money will spread out around the other pots. Logical. Starting time of 12 p.m. CST. Check-in will start at 30 minutes before the tournament and 10 minutes after 12. If you fail to check in, you will be sent to losers round 1. If you aren't there by the time of your losers match, you just get DQ'd. Fair. Signups will end the day before the tournament. This will make it so the TOs can properly seed the bracket and finalize it. Fair. Signups will end the day. Make sure your Discord name matches your name on the bracket. I'd like to think that's obvious, but I've also been surprised before. No, not start until given the green light until from the TOs and the stream production. All tournaments will be a first to 2 until the top 8. All top 8 will be a first to 3. Wired connections only. All sets will be locked on the Hashira training mats for the best connection. Fair, because it was a different time, so that's fair. So who all signed up for this? So there's the PC version. It has 9 people here on the PC version. And then the PlayStation version has 18 people here. And then the Xbox version. Xbox version has 9 people. Okay, so that's reputable. Almost forgot about this until I remember back in my documentary. But yeah, there was an Xbox version for this. It's looking pretty good for like the anniversary for regular Demon Slayer 1 Once Upon a Time. This is looking really clean. Marvel Tokon beta and Avatar come out, so after work I will be streaming them both. If you want to run some sets on either of them. Okay, that was during the Avatar thing. So I'm guessing that the Avatar thing must have actually warmed up to her pretty nicely if she's including or seeking to include Avatar and or Tokon into her lineup. So I think that's a notable process of expansion, which makes sense with everybody trying to get on the bandwagon. I was doing some documentations for this also in my own server where I was going over my Legion thing, where I noticed a lot of people are trying to go ahead and have early respites and setups for Tokon souls and trying to do stuff for the game. So Poseidon has Wednesdays or Wolverine Wednesdays. Neo Judai has the coming Motivation Academy for Tokon, which is doing for Saturdays. That's taking the prior Dragon Ball Fighters time slot on PC. Afro Samurai has a coming tournament that he wants to try to make a weekly, and that's set to host on Mondays. And then Aegis Esports, the ones that do all the Melty and Grand Blue and Uni, they're trying to have a Tokon weeklies also for Steam starting on Tuesdays. So that's a pretty good bid on 4 days already that are subject to change for the lane already that are just openly known. Next one. I have unfortunate news for the DS comp. I feel with EVO, the anniversary, and the upcoming Ultimate Burst, DS2 is reaching the end of its time, and it was a difficult discussion for me to come to. I'm not quitting Demon Slayer 2 or quitting being a TO for this game. It's a beloved game by me and a very important piece to all of this. But unfortunately, I feel like the game has come to a decline, and people within the competitive scene are moving on. For me, the Anniversary Series will be my final big event for Demon Slayer 2. Demon Slayer 2 will not be receiving a 1K qualifier at the end of the year. Instead, Avatar Legends and Marvel Tokon will be runners-up for the 1K event. I'm sorry to disappoint you. This was a very difficult decision for me. Please understand. I can understand because, again, this is where the anime arena fighters dynasty kind of has to respectfully understand how to be a proper fighting game community by now, which if it doesn't know how to do it now, then it never will. Because there's going to be a point in time where the game, any game, is going to lose support from the main line. And this is where it's important for the community to then take over past the company in order to have expected updates. This is where the community has to take care of the game, not where the company or the IP product takes care of the game. You love the game, you take care of it. If you don't love the game anymore, go. But you need to also have people in charge. You need to have people in the lane. You need to have people in the public eye for this IP that do care, that do give a fuck. Case in point, Miss Demo here. She is one that still cares in order to make sure that you guys are taken care of, which I stand behind her in order to make sure you guys are taken care of. But beyond her influence and her powers, it's also important for the community to understand how to be a proper community here. The whole point of a community is for people that care about one another. You care about each other's same interests, otherwise you all wouldn't be in that same community for the same interests. After thinking about it, due to my own personal life and problems and things going on, the Anniversary Series needs 30 attendees signed up in the 2/3 tournament available August 16th, or the plug will be pulled and the money will go towards Avatar or Tokon. This is not unreasonable or unrealistic requests because doing the numbers in all 3 tournaments are cross-region. If the Demon Slayer community is truly done, I see no reason why me and multiple others putting in time, effort, and mostly money in these events for you guys. That's true. Tell your friends, tell your clanmates, decide if you're going to play yourself. If 2/3 of the tournament don't have 30 players, it'll just get pulled and the money will go elsewhere. That is more than true. That is harsh, but that is also true because you also got to put your foot down about a lot of dumbasses in this community either are still existing or that existed once upon a time that kind of autopilot past this point where you want to play and then you don't want to play when the time comes up, but you want to complain there's no events for the game for you to play. No, there's no events for you to bullshit in. You're not playing, you're just bullshitting. This is an event where they want to house people to play, so respectfully play, or tell your clanmates to play. If they want to get their names out there, regardless of how they feel or whatever it is they do, say, think, or believe about the game, go out there, play. Get your name out there on the map. This is time for a whole new generation of Demon Slayer warriors and online warriors to come in, do your gremlin thing, be known, get respected or appreciated for whatever it is you do. You have to earn that respect. You can't just take it. And then try to give back to the scene. Be the next generation warriors. That way it doesn't just die with a generation because, oh, I don't feel the game anymore. Many people have had ups and downs on the game. It's not the first rodeo. The GENYA only tournament. Damn, I missed the GENYA tournament. I remember that date. I was either doing something on Marvel Rivals or I was doing something on Fortnite, and I didn't get a chance to get back here in time to do that date. Short intermission. Top 6 GENYAs are Jesslyn, Posh, Inflamed Heart, Love Disgrace, Daddy Silver, it's the Silver Daddies, and Jays. Upcoming tournaments are the Nezuko only, Tanjiro, the Tokon Test, and the Anniversary. Okay, I need to be here for the Nezuko one. I just gotta actually stay the fuck alert. And then this one was from earlier this afternoon that I actually did tune in for and like, from Demo. It's been a year since Demolition Mayhem was revamped, and it's been a year since DS2's release. Thank you guys for an amazing year. The Demon Slayer community has done a lot for me, and I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed all my tournaments as much as you have. I appreciate all the support for the past year. I've done over 30 tournaments for Demon Slayer 2, and I couldn't have done it without Slicks, Potato, Crystal, Sorryman, Chrome, and Clap. You guys have been my rock since the beginning, and I love you guys. Anyway, thanks for reading. That's our queen. Trying to figure this out because a handful of things are kind of projecting all at the same time. All right, I gotta get ready to fight the Arcade King over here at BB Tag. But what am I looking at here? I can't think of whose server that can give me an idea of the Demon Slayer EU scene. That's the last part of my case in order to understand why EU fell off and why NA rose to be a constant variable. The lack of hosts. There's more to this than just the lack of hosts, because anybody, in theory, could have just put something together for their homies, but didn't do it. The community could have advocated more for their scene. Some did, some didn't. Why was this divided? Artemis always spoke highly of EU and always spoke about the upkeep being an important consistency for that lane. And it's like it just fell on deaf ears. But then during the NA events, at least in the earlier parts when I was studying them, people just complained about there being no EU scenes. And I need to see more of why there's such a contrast besides the fall off. And if connections were an issue, then why can't they just have their own or more consistently? Or is it just that people just don't care enough? There's a lot of elements in the ecosystem to why they fell out and why, like, EU players are still included sometimes in NA roundups, but not all the time in NA roundups. If you really want them to be included in an unbiased assessment for whatever it is that these, I guess, that Chrome or Truth do in the what those power rankings or whatever it is that they call them, where it's just totally not complete and consistent. There was a thing I said about that I can't think of right now on why I think it was either objective or subjective. It's just not coming back to me right now. I can remember what I said. Oh yeah, the sources that I was talking about when regards to the way that they went about doing the tier listings for NA and EU was because of the factors that complicated the end of the means for the player tier listings. Because if it was just NA, then it should only be NA, and then included NA and EU. I didn't appreciate that bias. Or if there's active, generally, if it's about active players, then there's more to complete than what's present or what's deemed competent by the standard or an illusionary standard. If it's the full region, then it's incomplete and it's null and void by default, because it would then just be a set biased. Granted, yeah, I mean, it's their tier list, so you can have it be whatever, or it's anyone's scene, but what's whatever. EU scene is dead, and the more I keep trying to find this, the more I'm starting to wonder, because there's no EU players to rank fully, there's no tournaments, and the NA players are just going back to NA, only just to kind of gate the region out. So it just illegitimizes the point. It still includes the point now to better understand how many active players there are or were to paint the picture that's still yet to paint. Anyway, that's on the back of my mind then, that I'm still trying to figure out in that whole mental rodeo of the player tier listings. So in terms of this, I'm going to wrap this piece up here, and then I got to go digging to see what else I can find for the Demon Slayer EU scenes. I'm going to go over to Nikki's server to see what I can find. But arena fighters, in terms of like arena fighters versus base traditional fighters, this is an issue that we're going to be coming up on, because now that with Doma out and the past complete, and what Evo, which was like the biggest thing to look forward to right now, you can kind of contest that there isn't anything else bigger to look forward to, even though Demo or Biscuit, or even Nikito would probably say, okay, there's more to it than that. Because again, this goes down to the community, to give the community something to look forward to. That way you change people's minds. It's like you can't support people. And this goes into the next point that I'm going to make, in terms of understanding that now the community has to take care of the game. Because arena fighters often have a much harder time sustaining a community than traditional fighting games, especially once the official support slows down. It's not because arena fighters are inherently bad, but it's because the kinds of communities they naturally attract and the way the games are designed create different long-term incentives. Like, think about it. Like, many arena fighters are built around the franchise first. Games based on the anime or manga often attract players because they love the characters and the story. So, designated and long-term casuals. So a significant portion of the player base is there to experience the story mode, play their favorite characters, and enjoy flashy battles with friends. Competitive mastery is usually a secondary. Traditional fighting games, by contrast, usually attract people who are specifically interested in learning the game's systems. Even if someone loves the characters, they're often staying because they're enjoying the systemics and they enjoy improving or improvement. And then the competitive depth will be like less obvious with arena fighters than with traditional. Because arena fighters have skill expression. However, many are intentionally designed to be easier to pick up. They're supposed to be more cinematic in move outlines, more so than the execution portion of them. And they're also more forgiving of combo structure, which is why usually most combo structures are easy. Very few of them are intricate or layered for an arena fighters, which I like the intricacy in some of that. And that lowers the barrier of entry, which is great for casual players, like I said. The downside is that the experienced players may feel like they've explored most of the game's systems sooner than they would in something like an Under Night in Birth, or Guilty Gear, or Tekken, or Street Fighter, where there's layers of depth to shit. Like, it's subjectively true. Whether that's objectively true depends on the game, but perception matters. If players believe there's less to discover, fewer stick around for years. And then the community is tied closely to updates, right? So many arena fighters experience the cycle of announcement trailer, huge launch, DLC characters, active online discussion, then support will be questionable or just flat out ends, and then the player count just drops sharply. The excitement is often driven by who gets added next. Once that question disappears, so does a lot of the conversation. Traditional fighters, however, They certainly benefit from DLC too, but their communities also revolve around, and more often revolve around, new tech, tournaments, the matchup knowledge, and improving as a player. Those activities can continue even without new characters in the mix. That's what a handful of people like Masq or Sorryman's or uh, Crimson or um, I can't think of the other guy's name. I had him on my podcast. But it's what they were talking about in terms of trying to learn matchups, where they had the fighting game matchup ideology in practice going into arena fighters ideology, which I respect because those are well informed, competitive go getters that aren't really casually driven. What else was there? Tournaments infrastructure is smaller. Communities become resilient when they create their own events. Games like Tekken or Street Fighter have decades of regional events or like majors, locals, coaching, matchup discussions, and archived knowledge that's just there. Arena fighters usually have fewer established events and very fewer pipelines to like regional events or majors or people that coach you or matchup discussions and shit, because they usually just simplify that shit because of the ease to entry and forgiving barrier that some characters do and don't have or do and don't challenge with the way that they're supposed to play. And without regular competition, players have fewer reasons to stay active once the official support fades. So events being a constant for arena fighters, I think, is also more of a staple than they realize than it would be for a traditional fighting game. And then balanced in my case, or in my image, and I got to get ready to go. Balance concerns become permanent. If support becomes uncertain, every strong or weak character may stay that way indefinitely, and players go from thinking, okay, this character will never get nerfed, to my favorite character will never get buffed. That can discourage continued investment, either way you want to look at that. Unironically, some older fighting games survive despite imperfection. Some older games survive imperfection because their communities have accepted the game as is. Arena fighter communities are often newer and may not yet have developed that long-term acceptance ratio yet. If so, very few of them can be a Naruto. Because last I checked, like what, Naruto, Ninja Storms, something, is usually like the go-to, it kind of Xenoverse, but Xenoverse wouldn't really put it too much in this category. Those are like examples of arena fighters that always come back to the table despite them having aged very well like a fine wine. And then also online play matters more with knowledge sharing being smaller. Like many arena fighters rely heavily on online matchmaking. If matchmaking slows, it's going to be the repeated opponents. Newcomers can't find fair matches. Longer queue times. Traditional fighting games often have stronger locals in scenes that can continue even if online activity decreases. There's also some fighting games that can actually contextually challenge that ratio, despite how organic it would be for a traditional fighting game more so than an arena fighter one. And then with knowledge sharing, long-lived competitive scenes tend to produce a lot of frame data and guides or tournament analysis, Discord discussions, again, coaching, frame data discussion, even though frame data isn't really a concept in arena fighters. Kind of sort of Bleach, but that's a different thing. When fewer people create this content or that type of content with knowledge sharing, new players have less support, making it harder for the community to replenish itself and kind of restock a new generation. That's why for like Demon Slayer, Sorryman is like core to the existential survival of Demon Slayer community. He posts a lot of great and constantly fresh tech for the video game. And then the challenge honestly just becomes identity. A game can survive for many years without updates if its community shifts its focus from new content to shared competition and shared culture. So it means you're trying to celebrate stuff like player created tier lists, which, okay, I kind of see why Chrome kind of has that. or combo discoveries, or highlight videos like what Demo does on her TikTok, community tournaments like what Demo does, or Infinite Burst is another one. Infinite Burst. Rivalries. I'm sure there's still a few out there I haven't even talked about yet. And inside jokes and traditions. Infinite Burst is another example. Bro, I tell you, the staffing team on that is godlike. That was some of the funniest shit I done seen and that I done experienced in commentating in many years, and I'm really happy I had a chance to be a part of that. That was super fun. But it's not impossible. Some arena fighter communities do make the transition decently well, but it's harder because many players originally joined for the licensed franchise or ongoing content rather than for long-term comp play. There are arena fighters that have maintained dedicated communities long after official support slowed or ended, and these communities tend to succeed because they welcome beginners. They have the beginner pipeline well established. They document advanced techniques. They avoid relying solely on developer announcements for excitement. They can organize regular online and offline tournaments, and they celebrate player achievement instead of only new DLC that you're celebrating. Like, they begin to act more like enduring competitive game communities than fan communities waiting for the next update. That's where you kind of got to respectfully weed out the casuals and stick with your ride or dies. Your ride or dies are what's going to make sense and not always kind of default to, I don't really want to do this, or I don't want to play this, or you don't want to celebrate this, you want to avoid that. You don't want to welcome them, but you want to talk about you, or you don't want to try and look at highlight videos or go over discoveries like this, or fully engage in shit that matters around you, not just matters just to you, but it's not just about you, it's about what happens around you, what happens to what you care for or cared for. Like, the biggest challenge isn't simply that arena fighters stop receiving updates. It's that many of their communities are initially built around content consumption. The patches, the franchise hype, new characters, while traditional fighting game communities are more often built around the continuous mastery and competition and community ran events. Games whose communities can make that cultural shift are more likely to remain active long after official support ends. And that's what goes back to my example, like the Naruto Ninja Storm, or Xenoverse 2. Lasted a whole decade. Game damn near outlived all of its competition as a Dragon Ball GTA clone. Bleach, I believe, honestly, could get there. It has a little bit in the bucket to get started, but I believe it could get there. This game, Demon Slayer, I think could get there. If the patch holds true for long term, then I see this being true. What is it? Jujutsu Kaisen? I don't know. I gotta study that one in order to study up. But anyway, it evades my point. But it's just not impossible it's not impossible for a scene for arena fighters to contextually be relevant after the point of relevancy. small detail there, but actually one of the few times Ryu has a point. Because yeah, NA does usually go to meta. Or they don't want to learn how to switch up the playstyle. If I could find somebody that could speak fluently in another language, I think that would also be wonders for the breakthrough in the international presentation of how far this game has reached. Even if it's not a big thing, like the international assessment would look really clean. This helps a lot, actually. So far, I think Japan definitely has the most diversity in characters. EU was very fun to watch. To be honest, EU has multiple players who are evolving at a higher level, not just Art, Hikari, and Blue. Also, I think Hilly took the game as serious as D1. He would be a huge problem. Same for Reaper, but he seems to be a character loyalist, which is dope. But in this game, I feel you need a few mains to be dominant. As far as NA, I feel like Masq is dominant and evolves at a higher clip with him constantly having other characters in his bag and counter picking at a high clip, which is why he's staying ahead outside of him playing early hours. Him winning now is all him, and 3 months is more than enough for NA to catch up and do something different. Other notable players I can think NA wise that is cooking. No order: Jay, Krim, Swole, Judah. Neither has Chrome or Hoodie. I expect them to get much better if they work on other mains on the side. Being a character specialist is not as powerful as being versatile. Even though this was last year, I feel like there's still a part of this that holds some truth as the game is continuing to evolve and other players are catching up, because we see Artemis in more of the light now. Masq has already had a pretty good spot here. It's not really going to be that contested. Judah has been out here. Jay's definitely. Crimson absolutely. Swole absolutely. Daddy Silver probably. Hoodie Pole probably. So I think a lot of the evolution for this scene has come full circle, where you can see a lot of the people that are pulling out, at least from those from that main 1K16 ticket that happened earlier this year. There's a handful of them now that have started to pull ahead of the curb. So it's not just Masq now; it actually is, contextually speaking, other people. It's almost like a good handful of people you can count on your hand. So that's the thing. I gotta figure out what else is going on here. If I can get a thing with Hylia, that would be really nice. Best EU Marichiro. Ooh. Ruza. EU scene looking grim right now. We need some big tourneys to get players back. Maybe it's time for some EU tourneys. That's what I'm saying. Blue Spider. I was ranked in EU. There's like 2 people hosting tournaments for EU. That was them. There might be something else. Try to tell folks I see that same shit here in Japan. That broke shit is not exclusive to NA and EU. NA, EU, and Japan played high level without banning. I'm gonna get an EU only team going soon to test the waters. At the same time, EU doesn't have much variety. I'm gonna host something for them soon, but the EU players ain't on it as much as the NA players. Now we're getting somewhere. Hang on. Has barely had any tournaments. That's the excuse I'm giving EU players. EU hasn't had anything. That's why you think EU is not motivated this time around. So
what you do?
So bookmark it here for Ghoul and Ghostify here as we're getting into the deeper aspect of this. Hey, what's going on? Welcome in.
What you doing in my chat?
Well, I decided to sit here for a bit and looking over a Nikito server now. I'm trying to have the filter for Demon Slayer EU while I was sitting and waiting to see if anybody or if Realms wanted to come in or anything. I was gonna ask you in a bit once I finished up if you wanted to hit up that avatar thing I owed you.
I don't know what to say.
Well, let me know. Also, how you been tonight?
You know, I can't complain. I was working on my kind of personal projects, and as I'm working on it, freaking round practically being like, Clem, where are you? I'm like, huh? So here I am.
Okay. Captains. We do need more EU shit, I can't lie. So 2 or 3 of these people here. So bookmark it here. I need to refilter Nikito's chat. Ping these 8 players, and then this is how I can kind of focus fire something for EU that could start the correct chain reaction for either somebody else I can find for an EU discussion, or if I want to do the EU endorsement route or creation route, I need to speak to these 8 people to start something in the correct direction that can lead to something big. I would host EU events, but I'd have to get up somewhat early. Where are the EU events? Right, there's the regional divide for that, because the time differentiation is like 6 or 7 hour difference. So you would have to be a 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in order to compensate for the time loss.
Right. Who you talking to?
Saved just in the nick of time. Globku was able to get back to me. 1 p.m. my time also works. Streams until 2 to 3 p.m. which is noon to 3 p.m. So between noon and 3 p.m. is when I can catch him. So if I can change my schedule incoming in order to come home the hour before and not after, I can pick up either on a Wednesday or a Thursday incoming where I can do the early rendezvous. So tomorrow over lunch I need to finish that script for the EU revisement, and then also revise what I went over with Nikito and Wave Magus, and kind of have that be my general template going in over here, but hard focus everything to the EU paradigm. That way I can kind of get an idea on what I want to ask what was the premise on the video game for Demon Slayer 1 that allowed a general engine for both regions to coexist on, as opposed to Demon Slayer 2 where that fell off? How hard was the scheduling generally to host an EU event? Was there like a common issue that it passed through most of the time? Was funding an issue? Was consistency an issue? Was lack of hosting or variety of hosts an issue? So there's a handful that I want to map out very carefully here in the Globku assessment that's going to be next on the land. If I play my cards here right, people, this should be actually the next sit down I get a chance to do. I don't know whether or not this is going to be in front of the European region, so I do have to actually be careful and to make sure I go over everything here accordingly. I may only get one shot at this, so I do want to make sure that the shot is correct. What are we looking at? Today's the 5th. So I'm looking at, he said, whenever you want to do it. So I want to do this generally for a weekday would be my best chance, is a weekday. Because a weekend troubles into my usual Iacon battle circuit assessments. I don't want it to be, I could have it be a Monday. I think one of these two days is what I need to settle on most. Friday at the latest, in order to do this. So I need to have that template for the EU script and rewrite what I sent Nikito for the EU focus point, like I did for NA in Japan. I need to have that be done by Friday, so I need to get to work on that potentially tomorrow. And then I need to set aside the time and the date. I need to already have the template set ready to go in here. Hopefully I can get the assistant by then. If I don't get the assistant by then fuck it, I'll just figure it out on my own. And then try to be ready by next Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at the latest. I think I can do this. I really think I can. Just a matter of just timing and consistency.